Hello and welcome to Inside Rugby with Mark. My name is Mark, and in this video I'm going to talk about the Scotland versus Fiji game that was played yesterday at Murrayfield. It was game 2 in this year's Autumn International Rugby Series. Let's get into the video right now. G'day everyone and welcome to the channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Mark. I'm a retired Kiwi bloke. I'm a huge rugby fan and I live here in beautiful Mexico. So let's get into the video. And yesterday Scotland took on Fiji and it was a rather depleted Fiji team. Yes, Mick Byrne, the head coach of the Fiji team, could only select players that were not playing in the top 14 competition this year, and a lot of the top Fijian players play in that competition. So it was a good opportunity for those on the fringe of the Fiji team to get an opportunity against world-class competition, top 10 obviously in the rankings, Scotland, and it was a good hit out for them to see how they would go against that competition. A good opportunity for Mick Byrne to see if he's got any good players coming through on the fringe of this great Fiji team. Now on the Scotland side, it was going to be really interesting because Finn Russell was out of this game, and also Blair Kinghorn was out of this game because of the top 14 and also the Premiership contractual arrangements and not releasing those players to be available for Scotland until next weekend. So that's something to keep our eye on. So Adam Hastings was in the 10 jersey yesterday for Scotland, and I was going to be keeping my eye on him because it was going to be interesting to see how he would go in replacing Finn Russell at number 10. We had Darcy Graham back on the wing for Scotland, and that's something I was looking forward to. Him and Duhan van der Merwe are having a little bit of a competition at the moment to see who can score the most tries for Scotland. So what was going to happen in this game against Fiji? Were they going to get an opportunity? Well, the first 20 minutes of this game was horrendous for Fiji. Scotland got off to a great start. They scored 3 quick tries in this game. The Fiji defence was just nowhere. And on top of that, they got 2 yellow cards in the first 20 minutes. So Fiji at one stage were down to 13 men, and Scotland was seemingly just running away with this game. So before too long, Scotland were actually up 26 points to 0. And I thought the floodgates were going to open, and this was going to be quite an embarrassment for Mick Byrne and his coaching crew on the Fiji side. But credit to them, in the back half of the first half, the Fijians started to come back and started to put a little bit more pressure on the Scottish players. Now, up until that stage of the game, Scotland had all the ball, and in the first 20 minutes or so, it was very rare to see Fiji even get their hand on the ball. So Scotland was making all of the play, they were progressing downfield, and they were taking some very slick opportunities to get in and score tries. Darcy Graham got 2 in that opening period of play. But then it fell off a little bit for Scotland, and they went into this kind of confused area where they didn't really keep their pedal on the metal, and Fiji came back into the game, all credit to them. And as we got towards the end of the first half, it was actually all Fiji. And I think Gregor Townsend would have been a little bit upset with the Scottish team as they weren't able to put Fiji away in the back end of that first half. They started making mistakes, but more importantly, Fiji started putting more and more phases together, and as they did, they started to look way better in terms of their coordination and their combinations, particularly in their backline. Ravula at fullback and Caleb Muntz started coming in the game for Fiji. Muntz, of course, was playing at number 10, and some of their other backline players who I had never seen play before, Volta was one of them who was in the centres, started doing a couple of damaging runs, and he's a big boy to say the least. Now, I'd made mention in my preview video of this game that I thought Fiji's discipline was going to be a big issue that they needed to watch, and in the first 6 minutes of the game they'd given away 4 penalties, so it was only a matter of time, I thought, before yellow cards were going to happen to this Fiji team. But in addition to giving the penalties away, it was giving Scotland an opportunity to get territory, maintain possession and put a lot of pressure on them, and that's exactly what they did, so to their credit. But as I said, as we got into the back end of that first half, particularly around the 32nd minute, it started falling away for Scotland, and they started having their own discipline issues, and Ashman from the front row ended up with a yellow card of his own. I think Gregor Townsend would have been pretty upset to see how Scotland were falling away at the back end of the first half, and discipline started to become an issue for them when Fiji started putting on some relentless pressure through various phases of play. and it was rewarded for Fiji. They got a good try to Ravula, who got over with Volta going, pushing him from about 5 meters out. It was an interesting play. And then Hastings got another penalty for Scotland to make it 29 points to 5. So it really was Scotland's game, but they just needed to concentrate a little bit more and start to be a little bit dominating. But Fiji got the next try, and that got them back to 29 points to 10. And was there a sniff of a comeback coming on here for Fiji? Because they started to really get some momentum. When Darren Nalagi went over for that try, it looked like they were getting their tails between their legs, and they really thought they could take it to the Scottish team. And then there was a great little line-out play from Fiji where their captain of the day and the hooker, Erin Kanari, did a really good throw into the front of the line-out. He got the ball back and he scooted away by putting a dummy on Darcy Graham and scooted away for a good try, and that brought the Fijians back to 29 points to 17. Don't forget, they were down 26-0 in the early stages of this game, so this was a really good comeback. And I'd picked Scotland to win this game by 15 points, so this was starting to come into the window for me. So the interesting thing was going to be, could Fiji carry this on for the remainder of the game? And with the score at 29-17, I thought the next team that scored was going to probably have the best chance of really taking this game, and it was Scotland. They got in for another try, and then Gregor Townsend started to bring the bench on as well, and that started to make a difference, particularly with Tom Jordan, who plays for Glasgow, a Kiwi-born guy who's now got his residency over in Scotland, been playing for the Warriors, been playing very good for them, and he just qualified last month to play test matches now for Scotland. And Gregor Townsend's brought him into this team straight away at fullback to give him an opportunity. Kyle Rowe went off with a suspected HIA problem. So Tom Jordan came on, and immediately he got stuck into the play, and I was very impressed with this guy. He's a very strong character. He goes looking for work, and he's very good off the ball as well. He goes looking for the big tackles, and that's the sort of player you want standing up against the likes of Fiji. So in the last 20 minutes of the game, two things happened. First of all, Scotland found their mojo again, and secondly, Fiji started to run out of energy and started falling off tackles, and discipline became an issue again. So Scotland ran in a few more tries. They ended up scoring 8 tries in total of this game for a final score of 57 points to 17 against Fiji. Bit of a blowout in the end, and Mick Byrne, the Fijian head coach, would have been a little bit unhappy with that last 20 minutes from these particular players. But don't forget, he's going to get all his top players back to play Wales at the Principality Stadium next weekend, and that's going to be an absolute humdinger of a game. Unfortunately, it would have been good to see those players in this particular game against Fiji, so they could get some combinations together and to get in some patterns for that game against Wales. It's always been one of their problems, Fiji, is when their European-based players come into their team at the national level, they don't have long enough together to be able to gel into a good unit. So what's my assessment of the Scottish team this year? Well, here's what I think. First of all, in the first 20 minutes of this game, it was Fiji being horrendously poor rather than Scotland being absolutely fantastic. Scotland did take their opportunity, so I give them that much. But I think Gregor Townsend would have been very upset with Scotland falling away in the last 20 minutes of the first half, and also in the beginning of the second half. That would have been a really big worry to him, because first of all, this was the best Scottish team, I think, except for Finn Russell and Blair Kinghorn coming in, that Gregor Townsend could have put out. And yesterday, Adam Hastings had an absolute blinder of a game. So I don't think Scotland actually missed Finn Russell a lot yesterday, and I think Kyle Rowe, who also scored a try, did very well at fullback. So I don't think Blair Kinghorn was missed too much out of the Scottish lineup. So that said, I think this was a worrying performance, particularly in that 30 or 40 minute period where Scotland really fell off in this game against, let's face it, what we could call a second level Fijian team. Now if Scotland does that next week against the Springboks, they're going to get absolutely slaughtered, and they're going to have to up their intensity for the whole game if they're going to have any chance in competing with the world champions. So if you didn't actually watch this game and you saw the scoreline of 57 points to 17, you probably think, oh, Scotland must have played really well. Well, they did for patches of the game. They scored 8 tries. Darcy Graham ended up getting 4 of those. Duhan van der Merwe got 1. So between the wingers, they ended up scoring 5 tries. But it was really because of the lapse of the Fijians and the ill discipline of the Fijians. If you put the Scottish team up against the Springboks, as we're going to see next week, we're going to see a completely different game and a completely different outcome. Adam Hastings and Darcy Graham were the men of the match. For me, they were both extraordinarily good. Darcy Graham went off with an HIA and also a hamstring injury, and Adam Hastings had an absolute blinder at number 10. One of the plays, he did a round behind the back pass to Hugh Jones, who got the ball out to Duhan van der Merwe to score his try. It was a little piece of magic, and Adam Hastings made that one stick for sure. A little bit like the Harlem Globetrotters playing at that stage of the game. However, we'll probably see Finn Russell back in the 10 jersey next week, but having Adam Hastings coming off the bench, it's going to be a very good thing for this Scottish team. Having a look at the Scottish forwards, Ashman had a few discipline issues, and I think that's something Gregor Townsend's going to be talking to him about. We saw good performances from Cummings and Gilchrist in the lock. They were able to score ball, and Rory Darge and Jack Dempsey in particular had a good game at number 8. Dempsey was everywhere until he was substituted, and he'll have to play out of his skin against the Springboks next weekend as well. So all I can say about this game is I think it was a good hit out for the Scottish team to get them warmed up for the game that's going to happen next week against the Springboks, but they're going to have to play much better for 80 minutes if they're going to have any chance at all to compete against the world champions next weekend at Murrayfield. And I think Gregor Townsend needs to put them through some very intense training this week, because even though they had this good win, it's going to be a completely different competition next weekend. For Fiji, I'm looking forward to seeing what their other team can do against Wales next weekend. I expect that competition to be a lot harder for Wales to get over the top of Fiji, but I also think the Fiji discipline is something Mick Byrne is going to have to work constantly on to make sure they're not giving away too many penalties. So there we go, 57 points to 17 in the end to Scotland at this one yesterday at Murrayfield. This was game number 2 in this year's Autumn International Series. Can't wait until we get stuck in next weekend to see the games that are taking place. There's some absolute crackers going on next weekend, and I'll be following them right here on Inside Rugby with Mark. So if you're enjoying my content, you want to stick around, the best way to do that is hit the old subscribe button. Give this video a like as well, and a thumbs up and all the rest of it. Share it with your rugby mates and let them know that there's this crazy Kiwi guy in Mexico making rugby videos. I'd really appreciate that one. Okay, I'll be back again soon with another video. We've got lots of content coming out this week. Looking forward to round 2 or week 2 of this year's Autumn International Series. I've got plenty of things that I still want to say about this weekend's games, so make sure you check those out here on my channel very soon. Don't forget to leave your comments. Let me know what you thought of the Scotland-Fiji game if you did watch it, and what do you think Scotland are going to do against the Springboks next weekend? Any surprises in store out there? Let me know in the comments. Okay, I'll see you all again very soon here on Inside Rugby with Mark. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, keep enjoying your rugby all across the world, and I'll see you again soon from beautiful Cancun in Mexico. Until next time, it's adios from me.